It's not, my legacy is not in me, but my legacy is in my past and in the future of those kids. I look at, like I told you, my parents and my grandparents who they poured into me. And it's funny, there's that whole section in the Bible that says, so-and-so begot so-and-so, begot so-and-so, begot so. I want to be one of those names, that I begot so-and-so, that's so-and-so. And that I'm looked at as somebody who, hey, they poured into people. They loved God. They showed His light. They showed His grace. They showed His mercy. That I helped others become better. And that's, I guess that's what I want to leave with people. It's not about the money. It's not about the titles. It's not about the, whatever we have, but it's about the time that I've been able to spend with people and invest in others so that they can be better people.
Hey, Uncommon Leaders, welcome back. This is the Uncommon Leader Podcast. I'm your host, John Gallagher. Today's guest is a man who spent nearly 3 decades, sorry, I'm going to reveal his age already right here, 3 decades. He's been doing it since he's 6 years old, proving that when you invest in the next generation, ultimately you don't just change a life, but you can change a community and change the world. He's Robbie Slocumb, the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club, serving a massive 6-county region in Georgia, and he's grown his organization 10x over the past few years, leading through strategic partnerships and building a legacy of thousands of club members. Beyond the numbers, he's a man of deep faith, the teacher in his church, and the father to 3 sons who's passionate about the vital role that leaders play at work, at home, and in our communities. We've had some great conversation even before we hit the record button here, really quick, and I know it's going to be a great conversation today. We're going to talk about the power of mentorship, the state of the youth in today's world, and how leaders ultimately can build a legacy that lasts for generations. So, Robbie Slocumb, welcome to the Uncommon Leader Podcast. Great to have you on the show. How you doing today?
It's good, John. I'm glad to be a part of this and glad to be able to share with others, and hopefully we can learn from each other as well.
I think it's going to be a great conversation. So grateful for the introduction that Corey Carlson made to us recently to have you on as a guest, and I've listened into some of those things. I'm pretty jazzed up about it, but all of my first-time guests ultimately get the same first question, and I ask you to tell me a story from your childhood that still impacts who you are today as a person or as a leader.
I look to my heritage in my family. I had a grandmother who poured into me and parents who poured into me. A big part of that, coaches. But I think one of the big people that I had a mentor, his name was Kevin Bingham with Boys and Girls Clubs. And he basically looked at me one day and said, hey, you got to stop fighting with the kids, and you got to start fighting for the kids. And that statement's been stuck with me, and I've shared it with others about, we've got to fight for our kids, not just my own kids, but I've got to fight for those kids because I become their voice. And that's something that's stuck with me for a long time, just that impact of somebody pouring into me. And then that's what I do every day, trying to pour into our kids, try to pour into our staff, pour into our communities of what we're doing with the Boys and Girls Clubs. And I don't always see the impact on that day, but it's been cool. Yeah. It said the 3 decades, and I was like, wow, that is 3 decades. But, over, 30 some odd years I've been with Boys and Girls Clubs, the impact, and it's cool when we have kids who are now teachers, who are now, principals, who are now, they're coaches, they're in business, they're nurses, they're things like that. That's really cool to see the impact that what we've done has made a big impact on their life. So I mean, that's how it's all been a part of my life. It started with people pouring into me at a young age from parents and grandparents, and I try to pass it on to others. Yeah,
you talk about that generational thing right off the bat, right? So now, you are kind of the 3rd generation of that mentorship, even inside of your family. And 30 years of, that's generations of kids coming up through Boys and Girls Clubs. How did you get involved with Boys and Girls Club at the start that many years ago? And what's kept you there so long? Because look, not many leaders, ultimately, especially in leadership roles that you are as a CEO, stay with organizations that long, whether it's working for an organization like Boys and Girls Club or whether it's a Fortune 100 company that they work for.
That's true. I got pulled into this by my 6th grade teacher who asked me to come work at an after-school program for the big salary of $4.15. She said, hey, I want you to be a recreation coordinator. And I was like, and do what? She goes, play games and sports with kids. And I was like, count me in. That's an easy job. I could do that. Little did I know it would be, a long career of working with kids, getting involved with Boys and Girls Clubs. I've been fortunate enough to work with clubs in Texas and in Georgia, and then working with leaders in the Southwest region as well, in the Southeast region. And it's been neat to see that along the way. I'm now seeing kids who, when I first got to North Georgia in 2007, I'm now seeing them. I've got their kids in our Boys and Girls Clubs. So you talk about generational opportunities. We are now really making an impact on in kids who we've had their parents. And so that's really, another step of, and one of the ladies who enrolled her kids, she goes, the reason why my kid is here is I trust you. And that made big impact on me because it's like, hey, we're not just a filler for somebody watching my kid in the afternoon, but I am trusted to watch over, give those opportunities for your kid as well.
Rob, it's so impactful what you're doing. Again, you're back to the generational again. You're talking about that second generation of kids coming through your programs inside of Georgia. You think about that mentorship and the impact that you have on youth. You've been in that 30 years. What are some of the biggest changes in today's youth, especially the problems and challenges that they face that require mentorship that you maybe didn't face 30 years ago with what was going on? What are some of the big challenges?
Kids are facing different things these days. The technology is a beast. Mm-hmm. And the things that they're influenced by, from the social media aspect to gaming world to the whole ball of wax. But it's interesting. One of the things that we do, what we've done with Boys and Girls Clubs and just as adults, what we poured into these kids is relationship stuff, and true relationship, it cannot be replaced with AI. Relationship can't be replaced with a phone, can't be replaced with, a computer. True relationship is spending time with somebody, quality time, not looking through them, but looking at them, not just talking with them, not talking at them, but talking with them. And that's some of the key things that have been really transcended over the time is how do we build those relationships? And that goes with staff, that goes with our donors, that goes with our board, that goes with our community. It's those relationships where you spend time. The most valuable commodity that we have as humans is time. And our time is very valuable. And when we're given that time to spend with the person and sharing with them and pouring into them and asking them how they're doing and what can we do to help them. That's really what I've seen over the years is it continues to be that cornerstone of what we're doing is relationships. Now we're always going to have these issues of, from things that are going on in the world, from a pandemic to social issues out in the community to other things. But the key cornerstone is relationships. And how do we help people, us getting to know each other, talking, finding common ground and working through those and building those relationships. That's the key. Everything else will go around and there's things that pop up here and there, but it's the key part of relationships. That's where we try to keep our focus.
Love that, relationship building. And to hear that you don't just talk at them, right? You talk with them in conversation, especially with children or young adults, is treating them like an adult so that you can have a conversation with them and make them feel much better about themselves. When you think about that role as a mentor, realizing that probably I would imagine, I don't know a lot about Boys and Girls Clubs, but I would imagine they end up with you because they may not have that figure in their life that makes an impact for you. So why are mentors so critically important? Not just for kind of the youth, although it's very important, but even, you talked about your staff. You got thousands of staff that you have to mentor as well. What is so important there?
I think it's just like a coach. It's somebody who can be that ear when you need somebody to talk to. And that's really shown up a lot over the years with what we do is just mentoring is helping people, giving people somebody else to talk to. I mean, I look at it this way, they say an expert is somebody who's 30 minutes out of town. And so, their parents might say this to them, but when somebody else comes along and says, you know what, that's not a bad idea. That's a really good idea. Or there's, hey, I need some advice. And it's interesting, as I've been older, I still have mentors. I still have men who I call on and say, hey, I've got an idea. This is what I'm thinking about. Talk me through it. And then they ask me those key questions. Hey, where did you come from? Where did it start with? What are you thinking? That's the key part of it. It's, it's building those relationships with people. It's understanding where people are, and we meet people where they're at. We have a lot of kids who come to the Boys and Girls Club who they're broken. The family's broken. And so we're here to say, hey, let's help you put some of this back together. And you don't realize how many kids over my career have called their Boys and Girls Club their home away from home, because that gives them a safe space where they can go and they remember that staff person who poured into them. They remember that time where they took that field trip. And it's really cool because I've done this for a while, and it's cool when I have kids who were young kids And now they're my staff. And the reason why they're back here working for us and being involved with us is they want to pour into this next generation. And that's really
there's so much in that, Robbie, that you just kind of brought out. I mean, I'm smiling. I just went to a men's group, a Bible study this morning, and one of the stories that were in John and talking about how, Jesus called Philip and Nathaniel. And ultimately, when Philip chatted with Nathaniel and Philip told him, he's like, yeah, this guy from Nazareth, he's the Messiah. He's the one. And Philip says, well, how can anything good come out of Nazareth? That statement you made about, experts are 30 minutes out of town, that's so true in terms of right inside their own home, they'll hear the same advice, but when they can hear it from someone else that's a little bit outside, it may just land a little differently. Sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it is difficult to be a prophet in your own country. There's no doubt about it in terms of making this stuff happen. I love that. The other thing you said was mentors ask really good questions. You talked about those mentors asking you questions. You get a chance to ask them questions, and when they're doing it really good, they're asking you questions back. Okay, so that was another thing we talked about in our group is not to be a should head. You should do this. You should do that. When you think about, we talked about this a little bit before we hit recording, mentoring and succession planning, even inside of organizations, where do you see the differences and where do you see those lining up with regards to that space right there, how we're getting leaders ready to take the next step or kids ready to take the next step in life?
Well, one thing we've got to do is, I tell people we've got to slow the roll. We get so busy with trying to reach that next level that sometimes if you reach too far and you reach too high, you reach beyond those people who are behind you. And a lot of it is we've got to, what we're trying to do is give some opportunities where people can lead out. If we're always going, but we're not looking and saying, hey, who can I bring with me? Then it's just me leading the way. But I've got to bring people alongside with me. So, one of these days I might not be here, but they will. And that's really where you strengthen an organization is when you bring people alongside with you. And that organizational chart is not, the high peak and everybody else below. It's, hey, it's all of us moving forward together. And I tell our staff all the time, the ship rises with the tide. When we're all doing well, then things get better, opportunities happen. And, and then they don't just look at one person for that knowledge, but they're looking for a group of people for that knowledge. And that's really where I think the strength of an organization gets is you have more people who are given the input and the outputs and things like that than just one person. Because when you rely on that one person, you're putting all your eggs in one basket. What happens? And I think what we're doing here is we're trying to build that, that base, investing in people, giving time, helping them see different things, giving them opportunities. And I think that's the thing we forget sometimes is you've got to give people opportunities. You got to give them opportunities to lead out. You got to give them opportunities to fail. But we've got to give them those opportunities where they can grow, be better people. I look at so many times where God's put me in situations where I'm like, I don't feel like I'm ready, but it's like, okay, we're going to try this. I remember, many years ago, I told somebody I'd never be a CEO of a Boys and Girls Club, would never do it. And here I've been in the role for quite some time. And so, but God's given me that grace. He's given me the abilities. He's put people in my path to help guide me, direct me, give me some, and challenge me. And so those are the type of the things we've got to look at as we're building our organizations, as we're building our teams, as we're mentoring other people is, hey, if I don't know that there's an opportunity, why should I strive for anything? And so looking at those opportunities and getting people out of their comfort zone. That's also a challenge sometimes is saying, hey, I think you can do it and encourage people and talking truth into people and encouraging them and saying, hey, let's take that step. Let's put you in a different position. Let's help you lead out in this area and give them give them that situation where, hey, they surprise themselves and they build that confidence and then they grow. So many times we've seen that with our kids where we've put them in a situation where, like our Youth of the Year program, where we put them out and speak in front of a group of people and they're like, I didn't think I could do it, but you did really good. And it builds that confidence. I mean, I look at those things as really helping us as we continue to grow.
Are you tired of being tired? I know I was. That's when I was glad to find Own It Coaching. Now my resting heart rate's down 20%, sleep quality up 300%. I just ran my first Spartan race at age 56. I feel better than I ever have. So if you're ready to stop settling and start owning your own health, go to coachjohngallagher.com/own it and set up a free call with the Own It coaching team. That's coachjohngallagher.com/own it. Now let's get back to the episode. What's a story of mentoring, Robbie, that's really memorable to you, you're proud of? It could be either as a staff member that you mentored and developed, or a young child in the youth club that, Boys and Girls Club that you mentored along.
Yeah, we've got this young guy. His name was Alan. He was our Youth of the Year, and it was really cool because Alan was just a normal kid. I mean, he was just a great kid. But when I first met him, his dad, he had lost his wife, and they lost their mom, and there was 3 kids there, and he was the oldest. And I was like, okay, Alan, we're going to work with you. Lo and behold, a few years later, Alan becomes our Youth of the Year. We get a phone call from Taco Bell, a company that we work with and partner with. They said, hey, we're having a regional meeting. Can you bring your Youth of the Year to come speak at it? I said, sure. And I looked at Alan. I said, Alan, they're asking you to come speak. What do you think? He goes, I've never spoken in front of people. I said, well, you want to give it a shot? He said, sure. We get there's 500 people there. And he gets up. They said, well, do you want a handheld mic or a lavalier mic? And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. They said, well, you want one to wrap around your ear? And he goes, oh, yeah, that's what the singers have.
Yeah,
so
right,
he was
exactly.
excited. Got him up on stage, and the mic didn't work. And he stood there for a second, and then he saw the other mic, grabbed it, and started talking. And for 5 minutes, he had everybody on the edge of their seats. That when he walked out of that, off that stage, people were handing him Taco Bell gift cards as he walked down the aisle, just with how much they care about him. And it's just, and what's cool about that is a few years later, I get a phone call from him, and he says, hey, Mr. Robbie, I'm going to college. Do I still have money in my Youth of the Year account? I said, you sure do. And so we worked it out. And now he graduated from college, got him a certification, has a job, has an apartment. That's success. When we get those kids to be somebody who they didn't think they could be, giving them opportunity to be successful, and then let them go and let them live life. And so, and what's great about that is we still keep in contact with him and his brother and sister, and they look back on their experiences at the Boys and Girls Club as, hey, y'all were there when nobody else was there. And that's that's where they consider me part of their family. I got graduation cards from them, and it's like, that's what we do. And a lot of times we forget that people are people, and sometimes people just want to be heard. Sometimes people want to just get opportunities. Some people just want to sit down and talk and be listened to. And I guess that's a really big part of what mentoring is giving of yourself. Jesus was the best mentor. He gave of himself every day, and he poured into his disciples and said, hey, this is what I need you to do. And so I look at those opportunities as that's what we're doing as mentors, is we're pouring into people, because I'm not going to see the fruits today, but I will see the fruits in the future. So,
well, and you've got your staff in terms of paid employees, and it's part of their journey. Obviously, you being the CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs, but I'm quite sure that you rely on volunteers to play a role inside of this space as well. And talk to that busy leader for me. I can hear it. Don't get me wrong, because I was, in essence, quote, one of them, so to speak, that said, I just don't have the time to do this. Can I just write you a check and have an impact there? Talk to them about the fruit that they can bear by also giving of their time as well, not just of their treasure.
You know what? It's a great time just to give people time to spend time and talk with them. I'm not a clinical psychologist or whatever, but I believe, it's the way I look at ADHD and things like that is that's a kid who's starving for attention. So all I want to do is somebody to talk to. And I tell somebody, they're like, well, we want to come do a volunteer project. I said, the biggest project I would need done is come play basketball with this kid, or come walk around the track with them and let them talk to you. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it will make the impact. I'm standing here today on the shoulders of a lot of people who invested in me. But there was one guy who will never know the impact he made on me, because he came to my elementary school class every day when I was in first grade, Friday at 2:00, and helped me learn how to read. He came every Friday. His name was Michael J. Moore, and he came and poured into my heart and talked with me and helped me learn how to read. And now I enjoy reading. But it was 30 minutes on a Friday that he came and gave me. And I look at that as, if you got 30 minutes, spend time with the kid. And a lot of it, as a parent and as a father, it's pouring into my kids. If I can, give them time. We get so busy during the days and say, oh, I missed the ball game, or, oh, I missed this, or I missed this field trip opportunity. You never get those opportunities back. So make the most of your time. Enjoy what you do. Invest in others and help people see things can happen. You just got to, trust God and believe and let people pour into you.
So appreciative of that. And I understand. Folks, Robbie just defined ultimately what I talk about as the greatest story ever told. To be able to remember Michael J. Moore, middle initial and all going all the way back to first grade, someone who made a positive impact on your life. And to your point, they never know it, but you'd be writing their name. That's the type of impact as leaders, as human beings, again, as men of faith, as Christians, that we should be looking to have. We may never know that those individuals wrote our name or talked our name on a podcast about the impact that they had on you as an individual. And there it is. People remember that. People won't remember what you said. They won't remember what you did. They'll remember how you made them feel. And that's the piece, that's Maya Angelou. At least it's attributed to her in terms of that quote. But, that Michael J. Moore made an impact on you that you still remember his name some decades later in terms of understanding that, who made a difference in your life. You also mentioned the power of playing that role, not just, serving outside of our homes, but inside of our homes as well. You've got 3 sons, and, that's a big part of making sure, let's start there. Let's start with our own families when we can and making sure we're investing the time with them that they need to have. You pour into a lot of folks, Robbie. You talked a little bit about other mentors who pour into you at certain points, but how do you keep your own tank full so you continue to pour into your family and community, develop yourself as a leader? What are some of those practices? You may have mentioned that you're a reader now, but what are the ways that you keep yourself sharp?
One of the ways is, I hand a lot to Corey Carlson. We're in a group called Rise, which is a bunch of men who every Monday, 12 o'clock, we pour into each other and just learn from each other. And that's really where I think men sometimes they get in their own little silos and they don't want to, oh man, I don't know if I can do this, and because we think we can do it by ourselves. I can't do it by myself. And so leaning on other men's groups, I've got a mentor of mine who we meet on a regular basis and we talk and we pray, and he's like my second dad. When my dad passed away, he filled that role, and he's been the man who fills that part of my heart and my opportunities there. Then I've got good friends who I've got a CEO who is in Cleveland, Tennessee. He and I call almost every day, and we discuss, hey, what's on your radar? What's going on? What's going to be hard today? What do you think is going to be the easy route? And that's really those are the type of things that if we don't have people pouring into us, we get our base gets empty. And I'll tell you, if it wasn't for a group of CEOs that I had during COVID, where we were calling every day, hey, how are you doing this? What did you do? How do you handle this? Would never made it. And that's just opportunities. The people who invest in me and have given me, some opportunities there, and I've learned a lot. I tell people sometimes I'm a borrower of knowledge because I don't have it all, but I'm willing to, read a book, listen to a good podcast, which is always good. I'm always getting nuggets, just writing down things. And so then it's funny because a lot of times I'll end up sharing what I've heard with somebody else. And so looking at those opportunities that, I try to help myself out, grow and learn is huge. And then and a big thing is I try to pour into my kids. I love them, I want them to learn. And then I guess one of the biggest ones is my wife. She challenges me to be better each day. She encourages me. She helps me through things, helps me think differently. She's an accountant. She's got some different number skills. And so she goes, did you think this? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so having those people around you and living in a world of humility, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to learn from others and also continue to grow. When I stop growing, it's like a plant. When a plant stops growing, it's dying. So we got to continue to grow and learn.
Love that, Robbie. That's so cool. The term that came to my mind as you talked about pouring back into others, your family and others, and talking about sharing what you're learning was to be a river, not just a reservoir. But don't hold all that in, but let it flow and keep sharing it with others so that they can grow as well. Robbie, there's going to come a day, looking in the future, that you're not a CEO of Boys and Girls Club. Maybe you continue to rise, but at some point in the journey, you may choose to retire and hand the reins to someone else in some way, shape, or form. What do you want your legacy to be? What do you want people to say about you when they're writing that down, much like the Michael J. Moore who made an impact on you as a first grader?
Yeah, it's interesting because that's been a discussion I heard on a podcast a few weeks ago that was talking about this, and I was like, okay, I love my job. I love what I do, but I don't want, when I pass away, the first thing coming out of my kids' lives and my kids' mouths and my wife's mouth is, he loved Boys and Girls Clubs first. I want them, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, hey, he loved God first. He loved his family second. and he loved everybody else. And that's, when I look at the legacy of what we've done here, it's not about me, but it's about the people around us and with us that have invested in a lot of kids in North Georgia and in the country. And that's a big part of our legacy. It's not, my legacy is not in me, but my legacy is in my past and the future of those kids. I look at, I told you, my parents and my grandparents who they poured into me. And it's funny, there's that whole section in the Bible that says, so-and-so begot so-and-so, begot so-and-so, begot so. I want to be one of those names, that I begot so-and-so, that's so-and-so. And that I'm looked at as somebody who, hey, they poured into people. They loved God. They showed his light. They showed his grace. They showed his mercy, that I helped others become better. And that's, I guess that's what I want to leave with people. It's not about the money. It's not about the titles. It's not about the, whatever we have, but it's about the time that I've been able to spend with people and invest in others so that they can be better people.
Love it. I'll give you a chance to add a few more of those to your list. Robbie, this has been a great conversation. I can't believe how fast time is going. How can folks get in touch with you to learn more about you and, frankly, learn more about Boys and Girls Club of America as well?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. They can find me on LinkedIn as well. They can get on to other social media platforms and Facebook. We are Boys and Girls Clubs of North Georgia. We serve, 6 counties in North Georgia, and it's been crazy because when I got here in 2007, we were a $300,000 budget. Now we're $3.4 million.
Wow. 10x.
And we're serving more kids. So if people want to get involved with your local Boys and Girls Clubs. There's a lot of kids out there who are just needing somebody. And if you can't help with your time, get involved with the board, get involved with a committee, get involved with an event that you want to help out. But let's start pouring back into our communities, because that's where the strength of our society, that's where the strength of our states, our communities are strong. And that's where people are striving, and people are thriving in that area. They've got to learn to, hey, let's be more about our community, invest in others, help people get better.
Love that. So cool. Robbie, I'm going to give you the last word here. It's the same last question I finished all my guests with, but I'm going to give you a billboard. You put it anywhere you want to. What's the message you're going to put it on that billboard, and why do you put it on there? Invest in others. And I put that because when you invest in others, it's becoming selfless. And when I invest in others, I'm helping somebody. Somebody told me it's all about giving a hand up instead of a handout. Helping them out of the hole instead of just saying, hey, here's some money to stay in the hole. It's encouraging somebody when they've had the bad day. It's recognizing the name tag on somebody at a restaurant, the waitress who's waiting your table or casting you out at a grocery store. It's when you invest in others, guarantee you'll get tenfold back of what you give. And that's really, that's the opportunities that we have to be better people, is to invest and help other people get better. Love that. Robbie, I've loved our conversation. I wish you the best in whatever it is. Let's talk about inside of Georgia, but let's assume that you're going to be making impact in your community more than just as the CEO of Boys and Girls Club of America. I can see that. I can feel that that's what you want to do. And I appreciate you investing in others, specifically the listeners of the Uncommon Leader podcast. Hey, thanks so much, man. It's been great to be a part of this. And I challenge everybody, get involved somewhere and help somebody out. Sounds great. Be well, brother. Thank you. Hey, Uncommon Leaders. That was a great episode. Really enjoyed that. Got to really think about some of the things that I talk about regularly, the greatest story ever told. Ultimately, individuals who have impacted your life, that you end up writing their name on your list, or even more impactful is when someone else, because you invested in them, writes your name on their list. That's the greatest story ever told. I enjoyed the conversation with Robbie Slocumb. I hope you did as well. Look, share this with someone else who needs to hear it. Get invested. Serve others. Doesn't have to be Boys and Girls Club, but find the space for you where you can mentor others and make a difference. Until next time, go and grow champions.